Everyone's had a copy of the special notice of the regular meeting of the city council. And of course, we're still meeting via Zoom because of the COVID emergency order that was issued, state of emergency was issued earlier this year. So first item on the agenda is a proclamation that was sponsored by Councilman Coach Rowe Williams. And I'd like to ask Coach Rowe if he'd like to introduce the proclamation and read it for us, please.
Be my pleasure, Mayor. Proclamation. Whereas the Bardstown High School Lady Tigers soccer team members are Aja Sauter, Catherine Head, Whitney Rogers, Emma Simpson, Macy Rawlings, Emily Hines, Kaja Camberin, Perry Hagan, Mataja Yoakum, Jalea Cotton, Ava Roby, Emma Livingston, Tate Belenko, Avery Welther, Sophia Sharp, Candace Walls, Kaylee Hines, Kiana Porter, Jenna Hayden, Talia Lopez, Caitlin St. Peter, Nia Thompson, Isla Cresso, and Abby Morris. And whereas the 2020 Bardstown Lady Tigers are undefeated at home, compiling a 16-1 record leading up to the first KHSAA state tournament soccer appearance. And whereas the Bardstown High School girls soccer team was guided by head coach Martin Botkin and assistant coaches Mark St. Peter, Michelle Ellis, and Pete Welther. And whereas the Lady Tigers won back-to-back 19th district championships and their first regional championship in the school's history. And whereas the Bardstown alumni and the citizens of Bardstown wish to express their heartfelt congratulations to the 2020 Lady Tigers soccer team. Now, therefore, I, J. Richard Heaton, Mayor of the City of Bardstown, do hereby encourage all Bardstown residents to join in the celebration of the Bardstown High School Lady Tigers soccer team.
Okay, thank you, Roland. Great achievement by the Lady Tigers, their first ever trip to the state tournament in soccer. So very proud of them, and great success. And this proclamation will recognize that. Then I would ask if I could have a motion to approve the proclamation as read by Councilman Williams.
So moved, Mayor.
All right, we have a motion by Councilwoman Hart. Do we have a second?
Second, Mayor.
Second by Councilman Hibbs. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion is carried. Proclamation has been declared. Thank you, Coach Rowe. Good luck to the Tigers. Okay, Councilwoman Hart, I think you're the sponsor of the proclamation for Red Ribbon Week, I think.
Yes, sir.
I'd like for you to introduce it and read it for us, please.
Okay, I'd like to introduce the proclamation regarding Red Ribbon Week. Whereas alcohol and other drug abuse in this nation has reached epidemic stages, and whereas it is imperative that visible, unified prevention education efforts by community members be launched to eliminate the demand for drugs, and whereas the National Family Partnership is sponsoring the National Red Ribbon Campaign, offering citizens the opportunity to demonstrate their commitment to drug-free lifestyles, and whereas the National Red Ribbon Campaign will be celebrated in every community in America during Red Ribbon Week, October the 23rd through the 31st. And whereas business, government, parents, law enforcement, media, medical, religious institutions, schools, senior citizens, service organizations, and youth will demonstrate their commitment to healthy, drug-free lifestyles by wearing and displaying red ribbons during this week-long campaign. And Whereas the city of Bardstown further commits its resources to ensure the success of the Red Ribbon campaign. Now, therefore, I, J. Richard Heaton, Mayor of the city of Bardstown, do hereby proclaim October 23rd through the 31st, 2020, Red Ribbon Week, and encourage all citizens to participate in drug prevention education activities, making a visible statement that we are strongly committed to a drug-free city.
Thank you, Betty. I know we're sort of about middle of the week of Red Ribbon Week. Would you maybe give a little bit more background to some of the things that you all have done out in the community to kind of make people aware of this week?
I'm happy to, and I appreciate the opportunity. This has been headed up by Donna Lucchesi with the ROTC program at the county schools, and she's done a wonderful job. In addition to the proclamation, she and some of her students have taken red ribbons to City Hall, Nelson County High School, and the Visitor Center on the Court Square and placed red pinwheels in the shape of red ribbon. They have done a poster contest. We had planned on taking the beer and marijuana goggles out into the schools. However, due to COVID, we've put that on hold until spring. And Kenny Fogel and I are on the WBRT Brooks and Bradford show in the morning, talking about Red Ribbon Week and the Drug Coalition.
Thank you, Betty. Good work by you and all those other people involved with that. It's very important work on behalf of our community. I would ask then if someone would make a motion to approve this proclamation as read by Councilwoman Hart.
So move, Mayor.
Motion by Councilman Williams. Is there a second?
Second, Mayor.
Second by Councilman Shekels. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion is carried. Thank you. This last one is a proclamation that was the Extra Mile Day, and it actually was sent to us through our Main Street. Randy Mauser asked us if we would get involved in this program. So we agreed. It's the proclamation will kind of tell us a little more about it, but I would ask our city attorney, Audrey Hayden, if she would mind reading the proclamation.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Whereas Bardstown, Kentucky is a community which acknowledges that a special vibrancy exists within the entire community when its individual citizens collectively go the extra mile in personal effort, volunteerism, and service. And whereas Bardstown is a community which encourages its citizens to maximize their personal contribution to the community by giving of themselves wholeheartedly and with total effort, commitment, and conviction to their individual ambitions, family, friends, and community. And whereas Bardstown is a community which chooses to shine a light on and celebrate individuals and organizations within its community who go the extra mile in order to make a difference and lift up fellow members of their community. And whereas Bardstown acknowledges the mission of Extra Mile America to create 500 extra mile cities in America and is proud to support Extra Mile Day on November 1st, 2020. Now, therefore, I, J. Richard Heaton, Mayor of the City of Bardstown, do hereby proclaim November 1st, 2020 to be Extra Mile Day. I urge each individual in the community to take time on this day to not only go the extra mile in his or her own life, but to also acknowledge all those who are inspirational in their efforts and commitment to make their organizations, families, community, country, or world a better place.
Thank you, Audrey. In addition to this proclamation, Randy and the Main Street group are also, they've been getting nominations for people to nominate either civic groups or individuals who have made a difference in our community and gone that extra mile on our behalf. So I think we'll be hearing more from the Main Street people about those heroes once they determine who are going to be recognized, either the groups or the individuals that are going to be recognized as heroes that go the extra mile. So thank you. I would ask then that we have a motion to approve the proclamation as read by our city attorney.
So move, Mayor.
Joe?
Yes.
Yeah. Motion by Councilman Buckman. Is there a second?
I'll second that, Mayor.
Motion, Councilman, seconded by Councilman Hibbs. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That proclamation is carried. Thank you. All right, we'll move into the bids and contracts for services. Jessica's got a number of things here this evening. Jessica, if you'd like to give us an update on this additional Kentucky Infrastructure Authority money that we requested and received.
Sure, Mayor. This is a loan increase amount for the conglomerate of the Rowan Creek projects that the city has been executing. There's currently a KIA loan that we have in place that we've been implementing for that went towards the Potter Shop pump station and the work at the Town Creek wastewater plant. And after these projects have been bid over the last year and a half, and with the bid of the actual trunk line, that project was delayed probably close to a year in order to obtain all of the easement acquisitions and finalize that project in order to be able to advertise. Grants Excavating, that project has bid and they were awarded the project. And we do have a $1.6 million EDA grant for this, but that still left a shortfall. So there was money available to extend our loan through KIA, through the existing loan that we have, and that went through the KIA board and was approved. So tonight, this is just the formality of accepting the loan extension and the existing parameters and interest rates and payment plans that we had already agreed to with the additional monies in place.
And I think, Jessica, in this project, we also got a federal grant that's part of the overall monies that have been made available for this. Is that correct?
There was an EDA $1.6 million federal grant. Yes.
Okay. So, so that's part of this $8.4 million project, is that 1.6 is helping pay that. Is that correct?
Correct.
So.
So the loan was previously for $5.4 million. And
That's
with the
right.
1.6 grant, we were still short after the all the engineering expenses, the overages over the original preliminary estimate, construction estimates, when you have to apply for your loan, 3 years ahead of time, essentially. And that this is to try to help compensate for that hit out of our general budget or reserves, because it's such a good interest rate.
All right. Has anyone else got any questions for Jessica on this commitment letter that we do have to approve the receiving these additional funds per our request for the additional $1,071,088?
Yes.
So may I ask a question? The pay out on this is like how many years, Jessica? And does this increase that time for payback or not?
No, this doesn't increase the payback, the loan extension. It just incorporates that amount for our overall and gets adjusted for the overall annual payment that we pay back each year. I believe it's a 20-year. If I'm misspeaking, Aaron, please jump in. But that's what my understanding is this is a 20-year loan, and it just will change slightly our payment amount each year.
Okay.
And I think, if I'm correct, Jessica, did we just free up a lot of our debt service when we paid off, or we're getting ready to pay off another loan with the sewer treatment plant? Is that correct? That's going to free up about $800,000 a year.
That's correct. I believe in 2021 that loan will be paid off that was taken out, which was, I believe, close to $15 million for the sewer plant. Again, I may have that number wrong, but that's a big payment that we make that will come off the books. So that frees up our ability to pay this loan back.
Right.
And to
I
fund
just wanted to
projects.
bring it up per Councilman Buckman's question that our debt service is going to be in better shape next year when this, when this gets ready to start. It's going to be in better shape next year when we free up that other $800,000 that's currently obligated to the sewer plant loan.
Absolutely. And that's one of the reasons that the KA approved our request, because of our financial standing, and that's looking good for our debt service ratio.
All right. Any other questions of Jessica?
Thanks.
Jessica? If not, I would ask someone to make a motion to approve us executing this agreement with the Kentucky Infrastructure Authority for increased funding for this project.
So moved, Mayor.
Okay, that was Councilman Jones. Is there a second?
Second, Mayor.
Second by Councilman Williams. Is there any other discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, like sign. Motion's carried. All right, Jessica, you've got a service request for Old Nelsonville Road, and I think we have Robin Mills on the call or on the meeting for questions if needed.
That's correct. A few weeks ago on the council, this request came through, and essentially what occurred was our Esri map for our existing utility infrastructure out in this Boston area was based on digitizing plans that we had when we took over the Boston water system. And once we got out there and started inquiring and trying to find out making sure that we felt comfortable where the line shown on the plans ended, we realized that our infrastructure map was incorrect, that the as-built plans we had from in our archives was showing that that was a 4-inch line. It turned out it was only a 1-inch line. So obviously that would not support that length of extension to the two residents requested. So Robin brought forth this revised plan that shows a road bore under Highway 62 and going under Nelsonville Road, and then extending the line along Old Nelsonville Road to serve the same resident. The overall length of line is close to the same, and the request due to by the individuals, Danny and Brenda Keith, they've asked that the city participate and obtain the permitting and perform the road bore under US 62, and the county has agreed to let them open cut of Nelsonville Road to extend that water line. And they've also asked if the city would help with the installation of that 375 feet of the water line between the two roads. I would recommend that the council approve the request for the city to participate in that road bore. Those things are just easier for us as a utility company to get permitting from the state highway departments for. They generally work better with the utility company themselves. And especially since our mapping had some inaccuracies that we weren't immediately aware of, that has created some additional expense to these folks that are trying to get service. So I would be in support of the city taking on that permitting activity and installing the road bore under 62 and handling the permitting and the road cut for Old Nelsonville Road. The overall length is going to be, again, a little bit shorter than their original proposition. And, perhaps maybe if they would be willing to provide the pipe, since we're already doing the two road bores, we could install along that easement line that they're showing. And I think that seems like a fair compromise for the request. Robin, do you have anything to add, or did I miss anything?
No, I think that covered it. And they did indicate that they would provide the material if
Okay.
you all do the installation between 62 and Old Nelsonville Road.
Is that the 375 feet part of it, Robin?
Yes, it's 375 feet from the north side of 62 to the south side of Old Nelson Road, which is be the section the city would install. The property owner would provide the material, and then they would install from, once it gets on the south side of Old Nelsonville Road, they will install it from there over to their residences.
Okay. So we're just doing the labor and they're supplying the materials.
That portion.
Are we able to attach a cost to this?
I have not done a cost estimate for this portion, but I feel like we've got monies within our O&M and water looping budget. I set aside some money for things that come up if we need to make a connection. I think we should be able to cover that. If there's, not to mention, there's also some benefit to the city potentially for, again, this system, I don't know, it was laid out years ago, but there are some folks that are along Old Nelsonville Road that don't, because the water line's on the north side of 62, they're having their service lines run across adjoining property owners, and the meters are all up near 62. So there's some benefit if those folks ever have a leak or have an issue, being able to address that in the future, they now would have the opportunity for us to set a meter along the Old Nelsonville Road to remediate that in the future. So I think there could be some overall benefit for the residents, the future residents in this area. And I feel that as the water company, we could absorb that, what they're asking us to do.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else have any questions of Jessica or Robin on this request?
It's kind of hard for me to get my head around this thing right at the moment. And just help me with this. And if that was a development over there, for example, say if somebody's putting a subdivision in, would they be responsible for this 375 feet of pipe or not? Or this is, I've never seen this happen before, so I guess it's kind of new to me.
It's kind of new, Joe, because this is kind of service in a rural area that's underserved truly for existing residents, and there's nobody doing any mass subdividing and trying to, I guess, make a profit by tracting off their land in smaller pieces. It's just existing residents that have not had water that are trying to get access to it for whatever reason, whether there's had droughts or their wells are drying up or other issues. So there used to be a grant program back 15 years ago that the county sponsored. That was money came through the state when Governor Patton, I think, was in office. That was an attempt to get public water to everybody in Kentucky. And so there was some 50-50 matching money that went out to a lot of rural areas. And you saw a lot of main extensions that went out, and there was construction reimbursement for people who signed up for tapping on, and that got paid back through the county. So the county it was supplying water to county residents. But all of that money, none of that really exists even through rural development or anything anymore. So if you didn't get covered during that time period, during that 10-year window, some folks have kind of just fallen behind and have been underserved.
Yeah, I think that was the tobacco settlement money, is what Brad said. So that was used to extend water to a lot of county residents that were not on public water system.
Right.
And they got them, through that period, they provided water to a lot of people out in the county.
And Jessica, is this something that our people would do, or would we have to hire that work done?
We would be able to do the main installation. We would likely hire someone to do the road bore under 62. We don't have the equipment to bore that size.
Right.
But there are several folks that we could get pricing from, and we would go with the boring company that would have the availability and that would be the fairest price that we feel would do a good job, that could be bonded and everything for that project. we would be able to open cut Old Nelsonville Road. And again, we can handle that work. We do that all the time and repair the street back to, county requirements or our own requirements. So this is
I will-
something that we can
I
do.
will add that I will have to redesign this main since we are going a different route and resubmit that to Division of Water, but I am waiving my engineering design fee for the redesign. I just like to help these people get water.
I'm all in favor of them having water too. I'm just asking these other questions. So when you look at that map, the portion that we're just going between the two roads, is that what we need to do? Okay.
Correct.
And the road bore also.
Right.
Correct. And they have already talked to, there's one property owner that will have to cross there between 62 and Old Nelsonville Road. And they have already talked to them and they are going to give an easement. They've given it a verbal commitment to give an easement there.
Right. I saw that. Okay.
Jessica, this is David. Would we be bringing this system after the Keiths complete their portion all the way down to their property line? I think it's like 2,100 and something feet. Will they ask us to bring that into our water system after that's all complete?
Yes, that's the purpose of the request, is that they're going through the trouble of having it engineered, and this is not just a very long service extension. Will become a public water main that we will adopt and have into our asset, into our.
So it's not just engineered. It's not just engineered up to the point that we're doing. It's engineered all the way to the end of the line. Okay.
That's correct.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, then I would ask for a motion then to approve the request for the Old Nelsonville Road alternate as presented this evening, with the city participating in a portion of it and the owners paying for the balance of that.
I'll make that motion, Mayor.
All right, is that David?
Yes.
All right, we have a motion by Councilman Jones. Is there a second?
I'll second it, Mayor.
All right, motion by Councilman, second by Councilman Buckman. Any other discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion is carried. All right, we move on to Downs Lane. We have another water request. So Jessica, you want to go over that with us, please?
This is an additional water request. This is for, I'm not sure if it's called if everyone knows what this was, I want to say it's the National Guard, but it's not really the National Guard.
The American Legion.
American Legion. Thank you. American Legion.
167.
Absolutely. That's them. Have great sandwiches, trim lit. But that facility is being converted to a kind of assisted recovery facility. And while they're repurposing the building and there's some small additions to the building, it's needing additional water usage. And I believe it's needing to be sprinkled, which is needing water flow. There is not currently a water main down Downs Lane. So this request is actually installing a water line down Downs Lane along the right of way and taking the line to the property. And that main is being requested to be accepted over into the city system upon its completion. So that's going to be an actual water main extension, and that we would take in, and it'll go to the Division of Water. And Robin is handling that design. So she's handling that in the fire suppression system and whatever, if they need a fire vault, those kinds of things. But this request is for us to take over that portion that will become public upon its completion and meeting all of its requirements and as-built plans and so forth.
You have any questions of Jessica on this? I guess this kind of is similar to a developer. If a developer had, that building wasn't there and that road wasn't there, they built the road, put the water to it, and built the building. They basically dedicating these infrastructure to us, correct?
Correct.
The water line. I'm talking about the water line.
The
Never
water
been.
main.
So it just happens to be a little unusual because it's for one use right now. We don't know long term. It could be more people on that line possibly or not.
So may I ask a question, Jessica?
Yes.
Just to help educate myself. So where have they been getting their water source from? Has it come from the city, but just a smaller line?
Yes, it comes through the city, but it's served from the rear of the property, from an area off of, I don't know if it's called Bourbon Downs or Cottage Grove.
Aspen Street. There's a service. There's a small service line that comes from the main that runs along Aspen. So their service actually runs through a residential property. You know, it runs through somebody's yard and is served from the rear. I guess with the changed use of this facility, it's going to be a recovery rehab place within person residential. So it was required for the building to be sprinkled. So that was the main reason why they had to have this main extension.
But once again, they're footing the bill for this, right?
Correct.
Right.
Well, I think that the fact that we're getting a recovery center, given the drug epidemic, is good to see. Sad that we need it, but good to see that we have someone coming in.
Yeah, it'd be a great reuse for the building.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
All right. Any other questions of Jessica or Robin on this request for the new service on Downs Lane?
No.
If not, I would ask for a motion to approve this request from Medically Assisted Recovery Solutions to take in this new line in the city services.
So moved, Mayor.
I have a motion by Councilwoman Hart. Is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second, sir.
I think I got about three of them. I think Joe was the first one.
Yeah,
I think.
Okay, sure.
All right. Councilman Buckman on the second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you. All right. Next one is a change order on the John Rowland Boulevard sidewalk project. I first thought it was a misprint. I didn't see any money involved.
This is one Bobby Simpson would vote for, isn't it?
Yeah. So, but I read the rest of it. So Jessica, you want to tell us about this change order?
Yes, I thought of Bobby too whenever I put this together. And if you guys recall, when this project was bid this last time, there were the base bid and two separate alternatives, and we awarded the base bid and both alternatives to extend the walk all the way to Chambers and stop. Well, the original contract time was only for the base bid, and so therefore they're getting really close to getting the entire base bid and the additional alternative 1 and 2, which means it was originally that timeline was to get to 31E, and they're making it all the way to Chambers. So they've requested 45 days time extension to just completely finish the work and have everything buttoned up, all the ramps done, all the final dressing done within that 45 days. Again, there's a chance that they're going to be finished within that, but there's some still items like striping and some of the signal loop work or the head buttons that is going to be done by, secondary contractors. But again, that's their goal, and they're requesting we need to formally extend the contract time to accommodate those alternatives.
All right. Anybody have any questions? Just a request for some additional time to complete the project, but we're getting lot more bang for our buck, having waited on this project and rebid it. So it's a great addition to the community.
If I could, I'd like to comment on how smoothly that job has appeared to go. It doesn't seem like, you had many traffic pains. And so hats off to the contractor and Jessica for moving it along quickly. It's a nice project.
Thank you. It was a little rough in the beginning when they were keeping the lane closure and as they were permitted to up all week and not have to take it down at the end of each day. So we got quite a bit of calls early, but once they got into school coming back in and taking those lane closures down at the end of the workday, you're right. I think they've really tried to minimize those closures as much as possible and operate within their work zone. So appreciate that. I'll let them know.
So would ask for a motion then to approve the request from Easy Construction to add an additional 45 days to their contract through December 16th, 2020 for the John Rowland sidewalk project.
So
I'll
move,
make a
Mayor.
motion, Mayor.
I have a motion by Councilman Williams, I think a second by Councilman Hibbs.
Yes, sir.
Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion's carried. All right, thank you, Jessica.
Thank you.
Next, we have the HRB minutes and summary of recommendations, and I guess we'll ask our city attorney to read them. And I know we have one recusal. Is there any more than one recusal?
I'm assuming that's Joe.
Yeah,
Mayor, is that
we
correct?
have one for you. And Rashay will give us, there's some conditions on COA 20-140. There, and Jessica, perhaps there might be some conditions on that one because of a survey that revealed a sewer main. So when we get to that one, I'll let Rashay and Jessica speak to there's some conditions on that when after Audrey reads it. So we'll go ahead and Audrey, if you read these, and then we can let Joe recuse himself on the one and then take up the rest of them.
Thank you, Mayor. COA 20-138, Chris Simpson, applicant owner, requests to demolish a carport at 114 East Brashear Avenue. Recommendation: approval to demolish the carport only. COA 20-113, Annette Beavers, applicant owner, requests to remove a tree at 215 South 5th Street. Recommendation: approval to remove the proposed tree with the following conditions. Conditions: the applicant will replace the tree that is being removed with a magnolia tree that, once it reaches maturity, will have the same height as the tree being removed. COA 2125, Ann Rosalie Ballard, applicant owner, requests to add a small overhang to her front door at 204 West Flagey Street. Recommendation: approval for the overhang with the following conditions. Conditions: that the applicant must meet any planning and zoning requirements before the overhang is installed, and if there are any changes, those will be staff approved. COA 2139, Carrie Signs, applicant, Preservation Distillery owner, requests to install signage at 211 West Stephen Foster Avenue. Recommendation: approval to add the proposed sign. COA 2140, Mike and Amy Deaton, applicant owner, request to change the garage size and location at 108 West Broadway. Recommendation: approval for the new garage size and location. COA 2141, JTD Holdings LLC, applicant owner, request to replace the door at 102.5 North 3rd Street. Recommendation: approval to replace the proposed door. COA 2143, Rick House Restaurant and Lounge, applicant owner, request to install umbrellas at 112 Xavier Drive. Recommendation: approval to install umbrellas and to keep the current patio furniture. COA 2144, Rick House Restaurant and Lounge, applicant owner, request to keep a sign installed without permission at 112 Xavier Drive. Recommendation: approval to keep sign with the following conditions. Conditions: the sign will not be internally lit except for the open portion of the sign. The sign may remain for the next 90 days. The applicant will return with another application that includes new signage.
Okay. Rashay, would you want to add to the COA 20-140 or Jessica, the Deaton request for the garage and address the sewer main easement, or excuse me, sewer main question?
Yes, I'll start off, Mayor, and Jessica, if I miss anything, please come on into that. But essentially what occurred is that there was a site plan that was given to us that didn't take the sewer main into consideration, or it wasn't done correctly. So basically, in order for this to go further, what I have proposed is an additional condition, and I talked with Jessica about this, is so, end quote, that the additional condition will be that the location meets the requirements for the sewer easement, and the final site plan must be approved by the city engineer, Jessica Filiatro, and planning and zoning before construction can begin.
Okay,
And Jessica, did I miss anything?
No, that's pretty much it. Essentially, there's a sewer main in the alley, but there's also a manhole that fronts the rear of their property in the alley with an extension that runs kind of across the back corner of their property and along their side property line that was not shown on the site plan. So again, that was located, I guess, in preparation of the footing foundation. Those flags were seen, and it looks like there was an attempt to try to move it to clear it, but it's not clear how much it was moved. So we're getting that. The surveyor has agreed to go shoot that in and just confirm. And if the building needs to shift in order to make sure that appropriate clearance is kept off of the sewer main so that we can make repairs and replace that as needed without having to worry about damaging this brand new improvement, you know, that's what we need to do. And I'm comfortable with that. And as long as the council and HRB is good with that, I think the project can continue to move forward.
Jessica, I have a question.
Yes.
A neighbor brought to our attention their concern regarding their access to their garage once that other garage is constructed. Have you talked to them at all?
Honestly, in investigating, kind of looking at these properties with that concern, that's how I noticed the sewer main is back there.
Okay.
So kind of that, me kind of following that process. I have looked at that, and again, from a city standpoint, I'm not sure what we can or can't or can do to address that actually, as that is an access easement granted across not that property of the Deatons, but the other adjoining property owner. There's no deeded access granted across the access currently being used. So it's really something that the property owner, and again, I'm looking at the plans and the deeds of all the adjoining property owners to see if there's some potential. I can provide some guidance, but I haven't finished all of that in order to communicate that to the landowner just yet.
Okay, thank you.
and Roland, I spoke to, I think it's Mr. Blanford.
Mhm.
Yes.
I had a conversation with him last week, but I haven't had a chance to get back with Jessica and Eric on the issue, but we are working on it, but we don't have a
Okay.
final answer right now. But anyway, this evening, we're taking up these HRB
Yes, sir.
things. I guess we want to probably let Joe recuse himself on COA 20-141. And need a motion to approve that.
141, Mayor?
Yeah, COA 20-141. Joe Buckman's going to recuse himself.
I'll make that motion, Mayor.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll
Second, Mayor.
second, Mayor.
That David, I think, David Dones
Yes.
on the second. All right, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And then let the record show that Councilman Buckman recused on that particular vote. All right, now we have the other ones that were just read by our city attorney. And I need a motion to approve those recommendations from the Historic Review Board.
I'll make that motion, Mayor.
Motion by Councilman Hibbs. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And a second by Councilman Buckman. Is there any other discussion?
Mayor, I
Seeing
just,
none, Go
I
ahead.
just want to be clear that that's including the conditions that that Rashay read as well.
Yes, thank you
Okay.
for catching it on the,
Yes.
On COA 2140, I believe it was, Mayor.
on the
Okay.
Deaton application. There's some sewer main conditions that are included with that. Thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All right, all in favor, signify by saying aye. All right.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Moving on now. Everybody had a chance to review the minutes from our October 13th meeting. If there's nothing else, we'll approve those by unanimous consent unless there's some changes or additions. All right. I'd like to call on Aaron Bowles to go over our September 2020 financial statement review. And then we have a couple other items in the financial report tonight. Aaron? I thought he was with us tonight.
He was earlier.
Yes, he was.
He's there, but you can't hear him.
Did he turn his mic on?
Let's see if we can't get somebody to check on that.
His mic was.
Lisa's gone.
Okay, they're checking on, we might be having a little technical difficulty. While we're doing that, I think I would ask our fire chief, Billy Manley, to give us an update we've had to make some changes on our open house this coming Sunday because of the governor's recommendation based on the COVID outbreak. So Billy, would you like to speak to that?
Yes, Mayor. Thanks a lot. Yeah, like the mayor said, we had planned on doing the open house ribbon cutting ceremony and everything this coming Sunday, but we've been watching our cases and they're going up and going up. And then yesterday the governor come out and Nelson County is one of the red states, or excuse me, one of the red counties, and had recommendations, and gatherings is one of the things on his list. So I just feel like right now it's the best interest of the citizens and of the firefighters. We're wanting to keep them well, that we go ahead and put this on hold for now and totally postpone it. We got a large amount of numbers tonight on new cases. So we're actually taking a step backwards and re-implementing some of the things that we did in the past when COVID first started to make sure our firefighters are staying safe. So it's unfortunate that we're going to have to postpone it, but hopefully we'll get to have it sometime soon in the near future.
All right, thank you, Chief. And I'll talk a little bit more about that other, the COVID stuff later, but also as a result of this same issue, the rec department has decided to postpone the Woodson Rogers opening of the new improved park down on 4th Street for the Woodson Rogers Park. We postponed that as well because of the governor's request to keep gatherings to a minimum. So we're going to do that. So I guess I'll check back to see if Aaron's audio has gotten cleared up. He can report to us.
I did last time. Can anybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
we can now.
Yes.
All right, great. Don't know what was going on, but all right, we got that fixed. Okay. So back to finance here.
we're a little bit late presenting the September numbers. We were going to do it last month during our last meeting, but with the audit, decided to hold off and save this for the last meeting of the month. So just I've attached just a summary of what I'll be going over if you guys want to pull that up. So revenue in the general fund was up quite a bit this month, or for September, we're up 2.6 million, and that's due mainly to the accrual for the 2020 property taxes revenue came. I was able to make an entry on that, so that was 80% of that total revenue for the month came from property taxes. And with that, the line item on that revenue is now at 95% of budget. So we're well on our way to being a little, probably slightly over budget with that revenue line. By the time we got one more round of property tax to go out, which would be like distilled spirits, the things, I guess anything held in a warehouse within city limits will be taxed and paid usually around February. So we'll see additional revenue come in on that line. Occupational license fees came in 266,000, almost 267. Net profits, they've kind of slowed down a little bit over the month of September. So we only received $33,620 in net profits fees. I'm hoping those are officially due, even with extensions, by the end of October. So I haven't really looked this month to see where we're at, but hopefully net profits have picked up a little bit this month. Year-to-date revenue coming in at $3.9 million, or 35% of our $11.1 million budget. I'm going to change it up a little bit. I'm going to just go down into the general fund expenses just to kind of keep those two fund together here. So you skip down a little bit, the expenditures for the month, we're at $1.4 million. Street paving was a big one this in September. We had $434,000 worth of expenses, and that's due to the way that vendor likes to invoice. They do most of the work all summer and then save those up and send them all out at once. So with that payment to them, we're at 82% of budget. We got $90,000 remaining for any other projects that might come up. Salaries were about 288. The multi-use path construction costs were during September 202,913. Most of that will be reimbursed. They're at least they're a little bit slow to reimburse us for the things we've submitted back to them. Actually, we haven't received any money yet. So Jessica, I know, is in contact with the reps over there with the state almost every other day, trying to get them on the ball to get us some money over here. Just going down through there, we had just a couple of other small things going on. Mosquito fogging chemicals at just over $10,000, and then we paid out that $10,000 donation to the Main Street their fiscal year this year. I have a note there that says the fire department. If when you look at the attachment I send you all each month, with all the numbers for each fund and each department, fire's 5320 line item is looking pretty tight. But after discussions with Chief and Assistant Chief Todd, I think we're going to be able to move some of those items out because evidently they were anticipating and planning for some of the items that were coded into that line to be part of the building project itself. So I'll be able to, there's I think about $21,000 that I'll be moving out and adding to the construction costs of the actual building itself. So that will improve next month. Total expenditures out of the general fund were $2.8 million, or 25% of budget. As if you compare that to revenues at 35% of budget, and expenditures are 25%. So we're taking in more cash than we're expending. So that's always good. Go back up to revenue on the combined utilities. We had $3.6 million, and 92% of that was, of course, general service fees coming in. Our connection and installation fees that we charge, like water taps, sewer taps, and all of our cable connection fees for the month were $35,000, showing still a pretty strong month with new builds happening. Year-to-date revenue was at 19% of budget, 19.2%. And if you skip back down to the general fund combined utilities, the combined utilities expenses, they had total expenditures of $4.4 million. Purchased electricity this month in September was quite a bit higher than normal, just due to the timing of invoices that we pay the Kentucky Utilities for our electric costs. Downtown sewer replacement project had expenses of $87,000. Lagoon liner costs, where they're still doing some work out there, $37,000. The general or the combined utilities looks a little bit tighter when you compare revenue and expenditures. Expenditures are running about 19.5% of budget. And again, a lot of that could be due to these timing of these invoices, where we're seeing just a spike in increase, a spike in expenses for 1 month. Next item is the cash and investments. Our overall cash balance decreased $2.1 million during the month. The general fund dropped about $886,000, while the combined utilities dropped $1.4 million. Again, the combined utilities, we had really an extra payment for that electricity that would have caused that cash balance to drop. And the general fund, although we had revenue recognized, we haven't started receiving the actual cash for those property taxes as of September. So operating costs of the general fund is right around that 886. Investments, nothing's changed. All those CDs are still with Abound Credit Union, and one cemetery CD at Wilson Muir, about 2.05% on those maturities coming in April 2021. And I added a little line chart there, just trying to watch occupational license fee trends. And I plan to update this on a quarterly basis for you all. And it's very simple. Just over a fiscal year, it's showing what occupational license revenue we see for a particular month. And as you can see, compare FY21 is that blue line, FY20 is the orange, and FY19 is the gray. For the first quarter of every fiscal year, it all has a relatively same pattern, where it spikes up in August, and that's, you're catching your quarterly filers there. Everything kind of spiking up, and then it drops back down, and then it spikes back up each quarter. So no alarming trends there. Everything looks good. The FY21 overall is higher than it has been in previous years. So we're on a good trend with occupational license fees. So again, I'll update this every quarter, let you all see kind of how revenue's flowing through the general fund. Anybody has any questions?
Are there any questions of Aaron on the financials for September?
I have one, please.
Okay.
And this is just to educate myself. The $21,000 that you indicated would be shifted out of the fire fund into the fire building. Well, does that still keep the building fund in budget?
It'll be put into the prior year. I'll make some entries to move it out and actually kind of accrue it in a prior year. I haven't finalized FY20's numbers yet. That line is over budget. I don't know exactly what all went in there throughout the year, but I can detail that out. But it is over budget, just the general cost of that building.
Okay.
But
yeah, Betty, if you remember, we set up a budget for the fire department. We didn't really have any estimates provided by the engineering firm before we got into construction. So
right,
it's very difficult, especially right now with the rising cost of materials, to budget something, and then several months later you get the actual cost once the bid is let. So it's not unusual, and we will make the corresponding entries needed to balance that.
I remember we had several change orders, so just trying to jog my memory.
That's right.
Right. And again, that will be as a part of FY20's finances, and be probably in kind of in the next audit that gets presented.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the financials? You know, the one thing to keep remembering, you know, this income and expenses, they're not static where they average the same every month. There's always ups and downs. It just, but we like to compare the budget though, just to kind of see where we're at. But revenues change based on the timing of the year, and when some of our revenues come in, the same with expenses. It's a lot of these projects get draws made on them. You know, that causes that particular month to be higher than maybe the previous month based on those draws for those capital projects we're doing. So all that influences it. So.
Correct.
Okay, Aaron, do you want to talk about our disconnect policy that we've rolled out now that the governor has announced a kind of a sunset on the moratorium on disconnects?
Yeah. So if you all remember back late March, we suspended disconnects, penalties, late fees. The governor kind of ordered that. Just as a background, our utilities fall under KMUA and the governor's lead. Basically, they kind of talk with the governor and convince him to make orders that affect us. Salt River, KU, they all fall under the Public Service Commission. So they have slightly different set of rules. I don't know a lot about it. Eric or Jessica probably know a lot more than I do about that. But so Salt River was, since they're under the PSC, they were allowed to start disconnecting October 20th. Took the governor a little bit longer and a little bit more convincing by the KMUA to start letting local municipalities that own utilities start disconnect. So on Monday, October 19th, the governor released his executive order allowing municipal owned utilities to begin disconnecting delinquent customers as of November 6th. So during the time that we had suspended disconnects, you know, the city still incurred costs of purchasing all this power, operating water plants, all the chemicals used to treat the water and wastewater. So our expenses haven't stopped, but our delinquencies, they've increased also. And before, I'm going to give you all some numbers, but before I provide them, just keep in mind that even during the good times and non-COVID times, we're still incurring delinquencies. We still have just a static number of delinquencies that are always there. So I did just a little comparison looking at trying to compare 4 months in 2019 to 4 months of 2020. So July of 2019 through October of 2019. So the 4 month period last year, we averaged 2,601 delinquencies. Those are customer numbers. And then the average total delinquency amount over that 4 month period was $485,000 worth of delinquencies per month. Looking at July 2020 to October 2020, the total number of delinquencies increased 398 to 2,999 customers that are delinquent on an average month through that 4 month period. The amount increased of the amount of delinquencies increased 242,000 for a total delinquency amount averaged by month of $727,414. So again, that's quite a bit. That, you know, your number of delinquencies, the amount of people is up 15%, and the amount that they owe us is up almost 50%. So, and we've had discussions internally about trying to contact people, and over this, you know, as we see these amounts increasing, it's the numbers are up, but from a month to month basis, it seems to be pretty steady on the number of people. So I'm thinking it's the same people just aren't paying. So their bills are just continuously adding up. So we've had discussions internally about contacting these people, but and we started a few, probably a month ago. I've had my CSR supervisor reach out to some of the higher delinquencies just to try to get them thinking about what they're going to do, you know, that they still owe them money. We've still, even during this time, we couldn't disconnect them. We would still send out our delinquent notices to these people. So we changed the wording to not reference disconnects, but to say, you know, look, we've stopped disconnects, we've stopped late fees and penalties, but you still owe for the services provided. So we've tried to stay in communication with everybody to let them know that they are delinquent and they still owe them money. But until the governor allowed disconnects, we didn't really have much of a anything to back us up. So, you know, we could ask them and ask them and ask them, but, you know, we still couldn't do anything about it. So allowing us to reopen disconnections is going to help hopefully get these delinquencies down some. So what I'm doing is we are contacting each customer. Again, we're sending out the letters. I hope to talk to Nahome, and I think through our after hours call center, we'll be able to send out robocalls to these select individuals, and just, you know, as another form of communication, trying to get the word out that, hey, disconnections are coming and allowed per the governor's orders. So we'll be continuing to reach out to them. Our minimum payment plan for them will be 6 months. And we'll probably try to, depending, I've created kind of a tiered approach to payment plans. And they range from 6 months to 18 months because we have some customers that are well behind. So we will be working with everyone on an individual basis, trying to get them into a plan that they can afford to keep them current on their payment plan and on their current month service. So again, we're allowed to start disconnecting November 6th. So it's going to take us a little while to get each customer lined out and on a payment plan. I know they've done, the phone's been ringing quite a bit the past few days. So I know they've probably added, I'd say, upwards of 25 to 50 payment plans over the past week. So people are, it's gotten their attention now. So they are definitely reaching out, trying to make sure they get something worked out.
And then for the council members, just to know, those utilities that are regulated by the Public Service Commission, they're doing similar practices as well, setting up payment plans and trying not to have massive disconnects all at once. And that's not our goal either. Our goal is to try to work with these people. They've had a tough time, but now we have to, at some point we got to pay our bills as well. So we have to try to collect for the services we've provided. So we're trying to work with them as best we can proactively. And the governor has made some monies available through community action to assist some of these people in paying off their backlog. So hope that helps. Aaron, you want to talk about, or excuse me, did anybody else have any questions on the disconnects?
Aaron, do we know what percentage of these are residential and which ones are business?
Of the
I assume there's
delinquencies?
a mixture. Yes. I assume there's some businesses included.
I don't know the exact percentage. Most of it, I'd say mid to high 90s is going to be residential. 90%. It's mostly.
Okay.
Some of these numbers I can comb through, and just because of the timing of the way a business pays, there are a few higher dollar amounts on some months, but I don't usually break it down. I just take the number as it is.
Okay.
But again, it's 95% of those delinquent numbers are going to be residential customers.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, and then Aaron, speaking of revenue, Aaron has got something to talk to us tonight that might be able to assist us with revenue that we've been maybe missing out on.
Yeah. So a few months ago, I attended a webinar with the KLC regarding missed revenue opportunities by local municipalities. The main sponsor and the program discussion was based upon a vendor called DataMax. They're based out of Winston-Salem, North Carolina. So what they do is we'll provide a listing out of our occupational license software of all the known customers in our database, and we'll send it to them. And then they have already contacts. I don't really understand how I think they get vendor listings from schools, from hospitals, other medical buildings, Walmart, Lowe's. Somehow they obtain vendor listings. I don't know who they go through to get it, but they have it. And what they do is they'll compare their known contacts to the list that we send them. And they will notify us of, well, actually they contact the people that are on their list themselves and say, we see you have a presence, or you're doing business in Bardstown, but you don't have a business license, or you're not filing your occupational license fees or your net profits fees. So then they initiate the communication and getting those people compliant to get their business license and start filing. So they kind of take care of most of it on their end. They'll send us a list each month, and we'll just double check it to make sure that they didn't miss something, or they're not trying to bug one of our occupational license holders that's already filed, and just making sure everything's on the up and up there. So with that, those, they're capturing people that we don't have the staffing to go out to every business and try to figure out, okay, well, I saw this truck drive into town today, so this kind of takes care of that for us on that scale. There's no upfront fees associated with their services, and there's no real ongoing monthly expense that's going to be incurred by the city. So how they make their money is the people that they find that owe us or that need to register and file with us, they'll recoup 50% of the fees that those found individuals pay. So, and that will continue for 2 years. After 2 years, 100% of any fees that those individuals pay comes directly to us. So again, for 2 years, we do kind of a cost sharing or a revenue sharing with Datamax at a 50% rate. So I've talked to 2 other cities. They, along with their agreement, they sent a listing of cities. They are a KLC KLC preferred partner. So they've kind of been vetted through them. And I've talked to a couple of individuals at 2 different cities. They're both relatively happy with their services. It's fairly seamless. It's kind of a no-brainer. It's just money sitting out there that we otherwise wouldn't get because, again, we don't have the staffing at City Hall to track all these people down. So,
Aaron.
Yes.
Aaron, how you said the first 2 years they split 50% of the profits. After that, the city gets 100% of the profits. Right. How long of a contract do you have to be with them, or how long do they stay on board with you?
With Datamax themselves,
yeah.
I think it's ongoing. There's no
So what you're saying is after 2 years, they're going to be with us forever.
Well, yeah. Well, they're finding the taxpayers. So as long as those taxpayers continue to file and come in and out of the city and do business, they'll
continually monitor.
Well, after that, it'd be up to us because once Datamax finds them, then they're registered in our system. So then we will be watching.
We can follow up with them. Once we have them on file, then we can follow up with them because we'll have them in our data system.
Right.
Okay.
Once they're in, they're captured. And then whenever I get my new software, I'll be able to watch them even further for tracking if they're filing.
Okay.
So Aaron,
this day.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Betty, go ahead.
no, you're fine. Go.
Anyway, this is David. I've got a question. And so the 50% fee that they capture by found taxpayers or would-be taxpayers, is that 50% paid to them out of what they find or out of what the city actually has been able to collect?
It's out of what we actually collect. So whatever those people file, occupational license fees, say they file $200. I mean, we're going to have a listing. We'll have to create a kind of a reconcilement showing that we collected $200, but $100 goes back to Datamax.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Aaron. So one of the things that I guess came up in our audit was the fact that she was recommending that we hire more staff in our accounting department.
Mm-hmm.
So this to me seems like a way to do that on a less costly.
Yeah, this is a little bit different than what the auditor was recommending. She was more, I wouldn't even have a tax administrator necessarily type role monitor the ins and outs. Usually, I think larger cities have multiple code enforcement officers. So you would have one code enforcement officer, looking for grass, sign violations, and you'd have another one out monitoring activity at local businesses, or, typically that would be done through that department. So it's a little bit different. It does kind of help, the city overall manage taxpayer. I don't know the word, but
by allowing them to or us to bring that into our system. So after the first 2 years, then we will have our own system to make sure that those people file every year.
Right. And DataMax will continuously, again, this agreement with them is ongoing. So as they learn of new vendors in other nearby cities that may be new vendors that are working with these schools and things, then they'll continuously watch and monitor what we have in our database as opposed to what they have in their database. So it'll be a continuous monthly back and forth between us and DataMax comparing lists, so they can continually monitor that situation.
Sure.
Right now, to Aaron's point, we don't have a real good tracking system now because there is so much new construction going on in our area. You just hard to keep up with all those subcontractors, but we do get reports. So I personally will call Aaron when I spot some vehicles that I start seeing that I haven't seen. And also we have other contractors will call us and they want to make sure that their competitors are paying their fair share too, so we do get reports, and we'll run that by our CSR people to double check them. And then we've sent out letters and follow up, and we do get some, but this is a more robust way to do it than just waiting on somebody to call it in, or myself, or the police department, or another city council member to see somebody that looks like they've been here for a few weeks and probably haven't paid. So this would be money that we might not have normally caught, and do it in a lot more robust fashion.
Right. And again, I kept thinking it was too good to be true, but after talking to other municipalities, it's really a win-win. There's no actual cost associated. I mean, granted, we lose a little bit of 50% of occupational license fee revenue with these taxpayers, but essentially we may have never caught them in the first place. So
right.
And even if it's $10, $10, so revenue's revenue.
Any other questions of Aaron on
this agreement? Mayor, I just have a comment too, and something that you had just talked about. That's probably just to make it a level playing field. I field a lot of questions because of the occupation I do, that a lot of these subcontractors feel like, when they lose a job, it's kind of sour grapes, but they want to know if these people are paying their taxes just like they are. So this does give me an answer for them now. So
right,
it's probably going to be a good thing for us.
Right. Yeah, you got your local people that are here. They're paying for their business license and they're paying their occupational license fees, and so everybody needs to be playing by the same rules.
That's true. That's good.
Mayor, if I may add to that just briefly, when we do permits for land disturbance, we always require the contractor to fill out a subcontractors list. Well, over time, what I found is that the contractors were knowing the ones who are local, and they would just put down whoever they think already has a business license, and there's no real way for me to follow up. So I think when we first started doing that, we were capturing some of those folks. But over time, they started catching on who's local, who's got a business license in the system, and then that was kind of it. So I've tried to continue to provide Ashley that list of folks, provided that it's honest, and at least at a minimum, I'm requiring the general contractor, if they're out of town on some of these bigger jobs that are coming in for either a distillery or a big school or some other large project, but trying to make sure they're getting their license, or at least providing that information to Ashley to follow up. But I think this is a great idea to kind of, again, help leveling the playing field and make sure that we're being fair to our local businesses. So that's great.
All right, thank you, Jessica.
I think just to move forward with this, I think we would want a motion and a vote, I guess, to approve the mayor to enter an agreement with Datamax to use their services.
Thank you, Aaron. That's correct. We'll need a motion. Is there a motion to allow me to execute an agreement with Datamax for these services?
So moved, Mayor.
A motion by Councilwoman Hart. Is there a second?
I'll second that, Mayor.
All right, we have a second by Councilman Hibbs. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Motion's carried. Excuse me. All right, we're moving on to unfinished business. We had this mobile food vendor, Spencer Burkhead, applied. I think we took it up in our last meeting. And then we saw some issues with that. I'll let Audrey speak to that. I think we were not sure whether that application met all the requirements for getting to be a authorized mobile food vendor. So Audrey, do you want to talk to that?
Sure, Mayor. So when Gary and I went back and reviewed the ordinance a little more closely and tried to sort of figure out the intent in some of this language, we felt like that application was not going to meet the intent of our ordinance. There's one section where mobile food vendor is defined as a food vendor who conducts business from a food establishment on wheels or is otherwise mobile and which only sells food and beverages. But then when you go further down into the ordinance, section 1, it's 112 subsection 36H, specifically states every mobile food vendor vehicle shall be totally self-contained with its own potable water supply, its own electric and or gas generator supply, and shall not be attached to any exterior utility, including those of any other business at their location. And so Gary reached out to the health department, and apparently the water supply could be satisfied with having, I guess, 3 different buckets of water for different purposes. But we felt like that the fact that this wasn't going to be a self-contained vehicle did not meet the ordinance as it is currently written. So Gary and I, based on that, felt like it would be appropriate not to approve the application at this point.
All right, so we actually can just not take it up, or should we formally vote to deny it based on your recommendation?
So I know it's very rare that this comes up, I think, but I know in the past, the clerk had just not issued the application to start with, and left it to the individual, I suppose, to take other steps if they felt like they needed to. But the council, we wanted to at least make the council aware of sort of what the thinking was, since we had a pretty detailed discussion about it last time. So I don't think the council needs to, they did table it, I guess, last time. So I suppose we could take action just to formally not to disapprove the application, just to kind of clean that up. But I think typically in a lot of circumstances, the application just wouldn't have come to the council to start with.
Right, this was normally we vet those applications and they don't get to us unless they are approvable.
Right. It's an odd situation because he met some parts of the ordinance, but Gary and I went back and looked at it with another set of eyes, and I think we felt like the intent of the ordinance was to have it fully enclosed and more what we think of as a food truck or a trailer that we're more accustomed to seeing, as opposed to something more like a New York City corner hot dog stand kind of thing, which is not self-enclosed. So I think it could be appropriate for the council to take action just to deny the application based on the ordinance at this point, since they did considered the application previously.
Okay. How does the council feel? Do you all want to take it up? I mean, otherwise it doesn't meet the standards spelled out in the application requirements. So we could let it be handled that way.
Mayor, the first statement that Audrey made, that this little thing that we showed was a pull behind, but it's not self-contained. So that right in itself pretty much eliminated the discussion on that. It wasn't self-contained. It was a pull behind a trailer or a truck or whatever. So I agree with our city attorney.
The trailers are have been approved, to be pulled, but they are self-contained.
Well, this thing's not self-contained.
Right.
So I agree with the city attorney on her justification on not even putting it on the agenda.
So I guess the question to the council really is, since we've tabled this, whether we need to remove it from table and formally deny it. Is that correct?
Right.
I think Audrey said that could be. So we could ask for a motion to deny the application of this mobile food vendor based on the recommendation of the city attorney and the city clerk's analysis of the application, and it's not complying with the city ordinance.
Mayor, I'll make that motion that we deny it based on the facts that it's not complying with our city ordinance, as related to all the other mobile food vendors, the applications they present. I think you're opening up a can of worms.
Sorry, Bill.
No, it's fine. That's what I'm saying. I'll make that motion.
We have a motion by Councilman Shekels. Is there a second?
I'll second, Mayor, and I'd like to add that Gary, I guess, explained to the applicant why we turned it down so that he'll have a better understanding.
Yes, is that part of the motion?
Yes, please.
Okay.
If Councilman Shekels accepts it.
That's correct. That's fine.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? This is a motion to deny based on the applicant not meeting the city codes and rules on this application. So all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. All opposed? All right, motion's carried. All right, we're still on mobile food vendors. We have two more this evening. We have the first one is Sammy's Sliders and More. You can see that it has passed planning and zoning, and I think Gary Little and Audrey says that it meets our requirements. You can see the pictures of this unit. It is a full self-contained trailer. It's described in detail with the application.
I noticed on the other ones, on I guess the first page where it has operational information, it has the times and days of operation and the locations. This one didn't fill out a location. Is that a requirement on the application, or are they allowed to leave that open?
This is, I think this is to make him be approved as a mobile food vendor. And then from that point on, they can apply for specific locations, dates, and times separately. And as you know, Jan Johnson has made a notation that each time they do that, that has to also be run by her to make sure that property is appropriate for this type of setup.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, you're right. Okay.
Now, the other one, I think he just went on and put his dates and times down because I guess he already had some things lined up, but that's not always the case. Sometimes we just get them like this one, and sometimes they do have dates and times. Anybody got any questions or concerns on this one? If not, then I would ask for a motion to approve the application for a mobile food vendor for Sammy's Sliders and more.
So moved, Mayor.
A motion for Councilwoman Hart. Is there a second?
Second, Mayor.
Second by Councilman Williams. Is there any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's passed. The next one is Aunt Annie's pretzels.
Idiot.
Auntie Anne's pretzels.
There you go.
I finally gonna get it. It's Auntie Anne's food truck which sells those pretzels. He already operates currently, I think, in Elizabethtown, and now he's looking to operate here as well. And
Mayor, it looks like they have all their ducks in a row, lined up in a row. And I'd make a motion to approve the mobile food blender application for Auntie Anne's pretzels.
all right, we have a motion by Councilman Shekels. Is there a second?
I'll second, sir.
that, Mayor.
Okay, I think that was Councilman Buckman on that as well.
Yes.
Any other discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. All opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. All right, next on the agenda is any city council members have anything to bring before the council this evening or comments?
Can I point out to Councilman Dones that I have nothing to bring up tonight?
Okay. Unfortunately, I do. All right, we'll move on then. We have two cemetery deeds. Natasha Livers, purchase of one grave site, and Charles Pointer, purchase of one grave site. We can approve those by unanimous consent. Last on the agenda is the mayor's update. I feel like I need to report. I got a call about 5:30 this evening from Joe Pruitt, head of our emergency services. And as we know, the governor issued a recommendation yesterday because of the number of cases in the state. And of course, Nelson County was listed as in the red. We are part of the Lincoln Trail Area Health Department district. That's a 6-county district. 5 of the 6 counties as of yesterday were in the red, meaning that the number of cases on a per population average basis exceeds the state average. So our percentage of cases based on our population exceeds the state average. Yesterday, Mondays are typically a high day. We had 23 cases because you got some carryover for the weekend. But today was just startling. We had 97 cases reported today. Now, we think some of that's a backlog that didn't maybe get picked up yesterday. But in either case, the 2-day total of 120 is really startling. And Lincoln Trail issued an advisory to these counties in their district, the 5 counties like Nelson, that an advisory meaning that the cases are so prevalent and the exposure risk is so high that first responders need to be know that any home they might respond to for an emergency, whether it's the ambulances, whether it's the fire department, whether it's the police or whatever, they have to understand that they are potentially getting exposed to COVID because of the high number of cases and again the people that don't have any symptoms. So it's just startlingly high, and it's really difficult. And in talking to Joe, you know, I talk about this on Fridays almost every week now, and Joe keeps telling me the same thing every week, is that people have got to wear their mask, and they got to understand that they have to social distance even when they're wearing a mask. A mask is not a silver bullet, but it's the only real prevention mechanism we have, along with social distancing and hand sanitizing. And it's just apparent that people, you know, as we've kind of gotten into this thing, I know people are tired of it, tired of having to deal with it, but the virus hasn't gone away. It's here in major form. So we just really have to keep our guard up and emphasize that how important it is to everybody to do their part and wear their mask and keep your social distancing, and just don't assume that because you haven't got it or somebody in your family hadn't gotten it, it can't happen. So that's very troubling numbers these last 2 days. So I wanted to share that with you. And then that brings us to another issue that is difficult, and that's people are asking about, you know, what should we do with Halloween? And you know, it's the governor's thing yesterday was just a recommendation. So you know, it's just asking us to reduce our gatherings and the number of people we're getting with and so forth. But I guess where I'm coming from, you know, to cancel Halloween would almost be like canceling Christmas. It'd be a really difficult thing to do. But to actually issue an executive order and cancel Halloween would be almost impossible to enforce. I mean, you just can't imagine you'd have the police department driving up and down the streets, telling people to get in their cars and leaving and all that sort of thing. This would be real difficult. So my recommendation is kind of to be almost like the governor's and just tell people to cut back if they can. If they don't have to do it, don't do it. If you don't want to be involved and at risk, turn your lights off at your house and don't participate. On the other hand, if people do still feel okay about it, then we're going to give them, I mean, that's my recommendation, let them still have the choice, which is what we decided early on. The Guthrie Center has already made several changes. One, they made it a drive-through only, and secondly, now they've reduced it to less than 50% of the number of people will be even passing out candy. So there won't be near as many people, and they will be socially distanced. The businesses that participate in that will be socially distanced, and everyone will be remaining in a car. So I think that's about as safe a way as you can handle that, and they have cut that back substantially. But I'm not the only one here in town that needs to be making this decision. I just wanted to hear what the rest of you all think we should do about Halloween, because people are calling and asking whether it's still going to be permitted or not.
Mayor, what if we said it's permitted but not encouraged?
Well, that's what I meant, you know, is that
yeah,
we highly encourage people to consider cutting back or not doing it if it's absolutely not necessary. Those of us that don't have children at home anymore, I mean, you know, we can turn our lights off and not participate in your neighborhood if you so choose. And those that do have children, they have to make a decision, I think, for their kids' safety and their own safety if they decide they want to do it or not. So I think that's important, Betty, what you're saying.
I've seen on Facebook a couple of the neighborhood groups have discussed just doing it within their neighborhood and talked about, you know, well, you come to my house and I'll come to yours, and just trying to keep it small, which, you know, still probably is not the safest thing, but at least it narrows it down some and makes a smaller group.
And people with children, maybe they could just restrict it to just go into their uncle's or aunt's house or their grandmother or grandfather's house or something like that. Kind of not just be out all night trying to see how many houses they can hit and that sort of thing.
Right. I
That's
always
sort of
worry
what-
about Edgewood. Edgewood's the one that seems to get probably one of the biggest hits.
That's correct. That's been going on ever since Edgewood became Edgewood.
Yeah.
50 years or longer, I hate to say.
Yeah.
So does anybody else have any recommendations on how to address this? I mean, that's based on my conversations here at City Hall and around town today, that's kind of what I picked up on.
Mayor, I concur with what you're saying. It's totally, you can't enforce it, and we don't want our police doing that anyway. Leave it up to the individual households, how they want to handle it, and then just go from there.
All right.
I agree, Mayor. Just make it optional and tell everybody if they can keep it within a family style atmosphere. I think that would probably make the most sense.
We still just want to emphasize, though, if they do go out, do it the safe way. You know, the kids need to have masks on, the parents need to have masks on. Don't just assume that your costume mask is going to be enough. And then, you know, you can also just leave the candy out on your porch in a bowl or something and let them get it themselves without having to get face to face with all these people. So we've got that on our website, the recommendations on how to safely do this. So,
and Mayor, if I'd just like to say, you know, I'm just getting over COVID. I started with it on October 5th. I'm still fighting the cough. It's definitely not something that to play around with, and it's not something that anybody wants to get. So I agree with everything that everybody's saying. It's, you know, you want to take precautions. You know, I had a mask on. I'm an avid mask wearer. And so, you know, definitely, like you were saying, you want to wear your mask, but you have to keep that social distance. And, you know, Halloween is one of those super spreaders that it could really turn into that. So, you know, it's something that you know, as a parent, I definitely am, is something that, you know, I'm concerned about also. So just really, you know, watch those large groups, and it's something that, you know, we'll be mindful of, but you know, the less that you can be around in big groups, the better. It's definitely spreading, not only in our county here, but, you know, it's spreading everywhere. So it's definitely something that you don't want to be affecting your family.
thank you, Chief.
Mm-hmm.
Unless anybody else has anything else to add to the Halloween issue, I think that's what we'll do. Here, you know, with the governor's order here at City Hall, you know, we've already kind of redesigned our area where customers come in to pay their bills and set up new accounts. So those are still a safe way. They're completely shielded from the customers. And then, of course, we are asking customers to wear a mask, and people are conforming here. So we're not going to shut down City Hall at the current time. We are sending people home who can work from home, which was one of the advice of the governor. The rec center is going to adhere to the Kentucky High School Athletic Association rules as far as leagues and so forth. We haven't gotten anything officially yet on that, but once that does get to us, then we'll make any changes that may be required based on those rules about holding athletic events. So anyway, it's this is serious stuff. It's not something we need to take need to take it seriously, and everybody just do their part, because this is countywide. This is not isolated. It's not a Bardstown situation. It's not a county situation. It's the numbers are increasing all over our county. So we need to do our part. Be diligent, wear those masks, and social distance even when you're wearing your mask, and wash your hands. And that's the only way we're going to get control of this, because the vaccine is still a while away. And it's still going to be months before it'll be readily available to the public at large. So we just can't say, oh, it's coming, and forget about doing the other things we're supposed to be doing. Nothing's changed since early on, except I think people's behavior. As Chief said earlier tonight, I think even at the first responders, you know, everybody was knuckling down on this early in the year. And now I think all of us maybe have gotten somewhat lax, but we really need to get our guard back up to get this under control. So that's all I've got. If there's nothing else, I'd ask for a motion for adjournment.
So move, Mayor.
All right, we have a motion for Councilman Hibbs. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilman
second.
Butwin. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?